I think there's been enough action and cliffhangers for one video, so I'll just give you a spoiler right now. The rest of the drive went fine, and I got a few hours into British Columbia. It was rainy, and there were times when it was so extremely foggy that I could barely see a thing, especially when there were oncoming headlights. Doesn't help that the headlights in my truck are pathetic, so anytime someone's coming towards me, mine are completely overpowered. But overall, I felt decent about the day. Just having made a smooth crossing into Canada was huge, and I felt like if that was the only thing that happened in the day, it was a good day. The thing is, we never really know how things might have gone in another version of events, and sometimes it's easy to get hung up on small things or even rather large things, but we really don't know just how bad or how good something could have gone if we'd done things a little bit differently. I like to think that if I try to keep focused on the task at hand and be a good person along the way and stay as stress-free and focused on the process as I can, things generally go right, and I don't have to know all of the horrible ways they could have gone wrong in another version of the universe. Maybe one that was as close at hand as simply me taking a slightly different attitude at a moment in time. For example, there was a long wait to get my $13 acai smoothie bowl. The tender didn't have the right change. First she had to run to grab $1 bills, and then once she got those, she had to run to the gas station register a second time to get actual coins. And the entire time she apologized profusely, and I kept saying, no big deal, it's completely fine, don't worry about it. I don't see any reason to be stressed over things like that. Even the surprisingly high cost of the smoothie itself, I decided it was well worth it. One last treat, and a rather healthy one, before crossing the border into Canada. What is it in the scheme of things? Maybe if I had rushed her, I would have shown up at the border with a different demeanor that was off-putting to the person in charge, or maybe I would have gotten a different person, although I don't think that would have happened because he seemed to be the only guy there on the commercial side. Regardless, I really don't know. Maybe it wouldn't have made any difference at all. Maybe I would have saved $13. Maybe I would have made a young cashier feel a little bit bad, which is a big enough problem in and of itself to be worth taking a more relaxed attitude. What good does it do? If anything, it might do harm, and I really believe that there is something to be said for the various terms, like the various phrases, like what goes around comes around, and you get out what you put in, and things like that. I couldn't prove it, but I have a feeling that it really does make a difference. And sometimes just a feeling is enough. The difference between feeling stressed on this drive and feeling relaxed on this drive is enough, even if none of those other connections that I imagine are actually true. So for now, it's up to you. If you've stuck around in the video for this long, I want to thank you. You are helping to build my YouTube channel, and I'm really trying to give back something in exchange. I'm trying to make content that's a little bit more real, more honest, more meaningful, and more reflective. So if you like that, drop me a comment so that I know, or don't. It's up to you. But if you want to, you can continue watching this video, which for the next 15 or 20 minutes consists just of footage of driving through a very rainy yet still beautiful southern British Columbia. If you want to support me but you don't feel like sitting here with this footage, watching it for the next 20 minutes, you can leave it up in a browser, or just drop a comment and move on. I don't really want to be the person who takes up other people's time looking at a screen if you want to be doing something else. I'm out every day almost making things happen, and I feel pretty good about that, even though it doesn't always go in the ways that I expect. I feel good about the fact that I'm out doing something. I'm working hard. I have a lot of friends and a lot of acquaintances, people on Facebook, people who are in my circle, people who have come into my circle at one point or another over the course of my life, who really value hard work. And I'm going to be honest, I can go either way on it. I can take it or leave it. But I think that what I have proven to myself is that I have the right to speak on the subject. Hard work has a certain value because it tells you you're capable, and if it's done right, it can build your physical capacity, it can build your mental and emotional ability to get through things. Hard work tells you that you're capable of hard work, if nothing else. And sometimes it even accomplishes a task that's worth accomplishing. That second idea is something that I come back to more often than I come back to the simple adage, do hard work. Yes, we should all be willing to do hard work. We should all be willing to work for something that's worth it. But it being worth it does matter. And that's something that I go back and forth on with my current job. Sometimes I don't feel like what I'm doing is really worth the effort, but at the same time, I'm in it and I'm going to stay in it until I decide to get out of it. And more, I've begun to believe that I simply need to transition it towards something that I really believe in. What we do matters because hard work, just for the sake of hard work, doesn't really accomplish anything beyond convincing us that we're capable of hard work. Let's take that capability and apply it towards things that really matter. I might come back to this a lot in my upcoming videos, and I want to come back to it a lot in my upcoming life as well. What are the things that matter? Well, I think that, the basics like treating people kind, and being nice to each other and, caring about others, those are things that matter. And ironically, those values are often placed at odds with the value of work hard. It's like it's some sort of competition where you have to choose one camp or the other. Are you in the group of people that believes in hard work, or are you in the group of people that believes in treating others with kindness? I believe in both. And I think that I have the right to speak on both. I know from observing myself over the last few years that I'm willing to work as hard or harder than almost anybody I know, but it does not necessarily mean that I have to stop being kind to others or think that being kind isn't important. In the midst of working hard, I should be able to continue being kind to others, even those who aren't capable of quite as much hard work as I am. If I take the amount of hard work that I'm doing as some sort of permission to not be nice to others, maybe I'm kind of missing the point. Maybe then I'm just using my hard work as some sort of free pass to be a mean person, and I don't think that's really what it's supposed to be. In fact, if you want to look at it this way, sometimes it's hard to be nice to others. Sometimes it's hard to be kind. If you're not capable of those things, then maybe you should ask yourself why. Why are you capable of working hard but not capable of being nice to others? And yes, there is a limit to both of them. Just like I would qualify the purpose of hard work and say we should make sure that that work is actually meaningful, we also have to ask if our kindness isn't slipping into the realm of being enabling or supporting everything anybody ever wants to do whether or not it's a good thing, or believing that somehow we have to agree with every single thing that every single person does in some fake idea of what kindness actually means. Kindness means that I treat others with respect. It does not mean that I always agree with them or that I support what they're doing or the choices they're making, but let's be honest, I don't always make the best choices myself either, and I've needed time to figure things out. I've needed time to figure out what my own values are, and sometimes I'm not in line with those values that I supposedly hold. Giving other people grace as they appear to face these same struggles is part of being a strong person. And when we talk about hard work, what we're really getting at is the ability to be a strong person and the willingness to be a strong person. There's a lot of different ways to be strong, not just physically lifting, moving, loading, and unloading things. I think that being a strong person is an entire process and an entire way of being that refers to how you move throughout the world and how you interact with people on a day-to-day basis. Lifting things takes strength. So does maintaining a respectful attitude and a respectful approach to people who you strongly and sometimes emotionally disagree with. Anyways, I'm making this video the next day after driving for about 4 or 5 hours north into Canada and getting a good rest and a good breakfast. Overall, everything seems to be falling into place rather well. I gently reached out to a business partner of mine who is renting my other truck to own and reminded him to make his payment, even as I offered an early payoff that I thought would be beneficial to both of us. It would give me some operating capital, some working capital, which I've said multiple times lately would be very beneficial to my business and my plans for the near future, and it would allow him to pay off the truck sooner at a lower total price. That interaction went super well, as he indicated that he's attempting to make that happen and also sent the minimum payment due. So now it looks like, although money is a little bit tight, I don't have to stress too much about having enough to make it to Alaska. I have 2 loads to unload. One of them is prepaid, so only one will be paying out, but the one that is paying out is the larger payout of the 2, and it should cover my drive back to Minnesota and then some. I will be loading up the airplane, which might take a little bit of figuring out, but I agreed in advance with that customer that he would pay me $20 an hour for labor outside of the first couple hours, which I always offer for free to any customer, and of course the hours of driving, which are already accounted for in the per mile rate that I charged him. I feel like I gave him a very low price for what this transport is, and that was a little bit because it was something that I wanted to make sure to get on my books, and I felt like pricing it low was the only thing I really could do to offer incentives, since I couldn't offer insurance, and I figured that he was simply not going to go with me for that fact alone. But the value of a word of mouth recommendation perhaps cannot be understated, and neither can the value of just communicating calmly and honestly with your customers, so that they know they're getting a real person who is authentic and is going to communicate with them throughout the process. And he ended up booking with me. I feel like I could have asked a higher starting price, but I'm very glad that I did say up front that there would be an hourly charge for labor. That's one thing that I can do to protect myself and my time and simply my own financial needs from my business and from my lifestyle that I have not been good about doing with most customers. It also is nice that I know I am not by any means taking advantage of him. The pricing is still going to be incredibly fair to him after including both the labor of loading up the plane, possibly rebuilding and restructuring the trailer to customize it for the specific needs of that load, and transporting it back down to Minnesota. I'll be completely honest, I'm running out of things to say here, though I'm trying to keep the narration going through the entire long video clips of driving through British Columbia. I believe I only have about 5 to 7 minutes left here today, and I will put up another video tomorrow, which will be for today. I'm trying to keep video diary coming once a day, and in general I'm trying to make it in the morning before I get started on the next day. I just think that's the safest way to make sure that I don't get behind. As I'm making this video, it's relatively warm, maybe 35-40 degrees. I'm sitting at a rest area that appears to have a nice little trail, and I'm planning to go on a short run. Whenever I'm on the road, I give up one of my YouTube channels, which perhaps I needn't give up. It's a drumming channel called Drummer Every Day, and the premise is that I started drumming with no experience whatsoever, and I'm only learning by jamming with the radio or Apple Music or whatever it may be. And so far that process has gone really well, and it's been a really fun experiment, something that I'm doing alongside this. I could probably grab a pair of drumsticks and just literally drum on anything with the Bluetooth radio going in the background, and I could keep that channel going while I'm on the road. But for the moment, I'm going to restart one of my other channels called Wilderness Runner, reflecting one of my other many interests in life, which is running in the wilderness, as you might have guessed. Getting up here and driving through Canada seems like the perfect opportunity to do a little bit of this, and it goes hand in hand with my goal of just continuing to dive into other interests in life, even though my life seems incredibly dominated by the type of work that I've chosen to do, which involves driving across the U.S. and constantly working things out while on the road. So overall, I feel good about the way that I'm managing my work-life balance, but my only slight concern is continuing to make good time on the road. Making the video is rewarding, it's fun, it's a little bit of a break from driving, but all those things do take up some time, and at times I would just want to forget about everything and just keep moving forward. But the past has taught me that sometimes trying to constantly move forward is not necessarily the fastest way to go. Again, it's hard to know for sure because you can't go back and live life two different ways. You get those feelings that maybe this isn't as effective as I think, or maybe it isn't working out as well as I think, or maybe it would have gone in this way if I had done this differently, but you can never really know for sure. So for me, the point is to keep appreciating life, remembering to be grateful, enjoying as much as possible whatever is immediately around me, and not worry about the many, many other possible ways life could have gone. The point is to be as present as possible to the one that is here now, and trust that when I live with presence, with love, and with awareness and a willingness to learn and grow, my life will become the best that it can from here on forward. So with that mindset at least keeping me animated and keeping me energized, I'm probably going to close out this video, because what I remember happening is hitting some major patches of fog, and then every time I turned on the video to capture that, the fog would dissipate. Eventually I just decided that keeping the camera rolling was effective against fog. So whatever it takes, as long as there's no fog, that's a win. I kept the camera going, and eventually, I'm sure whether I had had the camera running or not, the fog was going to dissipate, and it gradually became slightly less rainy. Although it was ironic that I did not manage to capture any of the horrible, dramatic fog patches. Eventually I pulled off last night at a rest area, of which there are plenty in Canada, and of course especially in winter they're completely abandoned and unused, so there are plenty of places to pull off along the road. Despite the upcoming clip, the frequency of gas stations has actually picked up today and everything is looking great. So I didn't really push past but a few little gas stations, and those were right across the border, and I just fueled up on the American side. I didn't really expect to go this close to empty on the very first leg of the trip. I expected to run into that maybe a little bit later when I really get up north, but man, there was a stretch there. And the thing is, this truck really only has a range. Let's look at the gas mileage here. Average 9.9. I've seen the range go as low as 170 or 165 miles on a tank, so it's not like it goes that far on a tank when pulling this trailer.